Hello, my lovely kids. You are welcome again to another Cafdil science lessons. My name is Ernest Atto Benter. Kids, in our previous lessons, we started with reproduction in animals, and we went through how mammals give birth. Then we came to animals that also produce young ones through hatching. So we talked about birds and how their young ones are hatched from eggs, as well as reptiles. Today we are going to continue with the lesson on reproduction. But today we are going to look at reproduction in insects and amphibians. We have already learned about insects in the beginning of our lessons, as well as amphibians, what type of animals fall under insects and amphibians. But today we are going to look at how they multiply. As we said in our previous lessons, when God created everything, he commanded living things to be fruitful and multiply. So we are going to look at how insects and amphibians also multiply. But before we do that, let's mark the homework on reproduction in birds and then reptiles. So the first question is, what is hatching in reproduction? And the answer is, hatching in reproduction means producing young ones from eggs. So when you hear hatching, it means producing young ones from eggs. To state 3 examples of animals that reproduce young ones through hatching from eggs. 3 examples of animals that reproduce young ones through hatching from eggs. So we have duck, we have hen, and we have crocodile. So all these animals reproduce young ones through hatching from eggs. Good. Now let's move to today's topic on reproduction in insects. We have done mammals, we have done birds, and then we have done reptiles. So we are looking at the last two, that's the insects and amphibians. Good. Okay, at the end of the lesson, you'll be able to explain what reproduction is, explain reproduction, explain hatching in reproduction, explain hatching in reproduction, and then state 3 examples of living things that reproduce their young ones through hatching from eggs. So let's all sit tight, take our book and then pens, and then enjoy the lesson. Good. What is reproduction? Let's refresh our mind. What is reproduction? When animals hatch into young ones, we say it is reproduction. When they hatch into young ones, we say it is reproduction. And the young ones look like their parents. So if you look at this cockroach here and the young ones here, they are the same as the parents, or they look similar. So in reproduction, young ones look like their parents. Now let's look at what is reproduction through hatching. Hatching means producing young ones from eggs. Hatching means producing young ones from eggs. So if we didn't come from eggs, human beings, we were giving birth to. I haven't seen any human being who was hatched from eggs. We were all giving birth to. But when you talk about hatching, it means the young ones came from an egg. Animals like insects and amphibians produce their young ones through hatching. So when you take amphibians, when we talked about amphibians, we talked about frogs, we talked about toads, we talked about salamanders, we talked about newts. These are all amphibians, and they produce young ones through hatching. Then when we talk about insects, we talked about butterfly, we talked about the housefly, we talked about the mosquitoes. They are all insects, and they reproduce through hatching. That means they lay eggs and then the young ones come from the eggs. Animals that reproduce by hatching begin by laying their eggs first. They begin by laying their eggs first. They hatch their young ones from the eggs. So animals that reproduce by hatching begin by laying their eggs first. So after laying their eggs, then they hatch their young ones from the eggs. So hatching cannot take place without eggs. Coming out from an egg is what we call hatching. So animals that reproduce by hatching begin by laying their eggs first, and they hatch their young ones from the eggs. Good. Now let's look at reproduction in amphibians, and we are taking the frog as an example here. So the eggs of a frog do not have shells. They must be laid in water to keep them from drying. So when you take the eggs of birds, when you take the eggs of reptiles like the snake, the lizard, the eggs have shells that protect the yolk. This is the yolk, and then the albumin, the white part. But when you talk about the eggs of frogs, they do not have shells. So because they do not have shells, they lay in water. So that means that the eggs of amphibians are only made of the yolk and the albumin. Only the yolk and the albumin without shells. So they lay inside water. Because if they lay on land, because the yolk and the albumin is very soft and liquid in nature, it will dry. It will dry. It will dry. So their eggs are laid in water to keep them from drying. So remember that the eggs of frogs do not have shells. So because of that, they lay inside water. So let's look at a frog laying eggs. When a female frog, want to lay eggs, they will look for a male frog, and the male frog will climb the back of the female. So as the female is laying the egg, the male will be fertilizing the eggs at the same time. And when the male finishes with the fertilization of the eggs, then the male will move away. So these are the eggs of a frog. So since they lay, amphibians spend most of their life, they have two lives, one on land and one in water, but they start their lives in water. So look at the egg developing. It has hatched into tadpoles. The young of a frog is called tadpole. So they will develop gradually inside the water, so they become full-grown frogs before they come to land. So see how the young tadpoles develop. When they are young, they are like fish. They are like fishes with no legs, and they have tails also. But as they grow, their tail vanishes and they develop front and then hind legs, and then they jump out of the water to land. So this is how frogs reproduce. This is how frogs reproduce. So they first lay their eggs in water. They lay their eggs in water, and then as they are laying the egg, the female will look for a male so that the male will fertilize the egg. Let's watch it again. So the female will look for a male, and then the male will climb the back of the female frog. And as the female frog lays the eggs, the male will fertilize it. And after that, the male will move away and the female will also go away. And the eggs will remain in water, and day after day, the young ones will start developing, as you see. the young ones will start developing. And then after some number of days, when they are fully developed, they will move out of the albumin, and then you see them going. So amphibians have two lives. They spend their lives in water and land at the same time, but they start their lives in water. They start their lives in water. So gradually, when they are born, they look like fishes, and then gradually with tails. So as they grow, the tail will vanish, and then they will develop the front legs and then the hind legs, that is their back legs. And then when they are fully matured as frogs, then they jump out of the water to experience life on land too. So a frog lay eggs, and young ones are hatched from the eggs. So this is the life cycle. They will lay their eggs. There's the egg, and then the egg will hatch into tadpoles, and then gradually it will develop. So there's the tadpole. When they are born with tails. Later they develop the hind legs, and then the front legs will also come, and then the tail will vanish, and then there will be a complete frog, and then they start enjoying life on land too. So this is how amphibians, especially the frogs, as we used as an example here, also multiply by producing young ones from eggs. Good. Now let's go to insects. Most insects also lay eggs, and then they hatch their young ones from the eggs. So a butterfly laying egg. Kate, have you seen the egg of a butterfly before? Yeah, today you will see it. So these are the eggs of a butterfly. So you see these blue eggs. Yes, these are the eggs of a butterfly. They normally lay their eggs on leaves. So these are the eggs of a butterfly. So this butterfly is laying eggs. Why do they lay their eggs on leaves? Because when the young ones are hatched from the eggs, they feed on the leaves. So immediately they are hatched, food is near them so that they will not die. So these are the eggs of a butterfly. These are the eggs of a butterfly. They are very tiny. These are the eggs of a butterfly. So with time, with all the eggs that hatch, with time, the young one will come out from the egg. The young one will come out from the egg, as you see the young one coming. And Kate, the young one of a butterfly is called a caterpillar. When they are hatched from the eggs, they don't look like the butterfly we know. They don't look like the butterfly we know. We call them caterpillars. Just like the frog. The frog too, when they are hatched, they look like fish. But as they grow, they turn into an adult frog. The same applies to the butterfly. So when they lay the eggs, after some time the egg will hatch, and then they will also come out from the egg. So let's look at it again. So this is the butterfly laying eggs, like jewels. The eggs are like beads. So that's the bluish color. So this butterfly is laying eggs, and as I said, they lay eggs on leaves because the young ones, the caterpillars, when they are born, they feed on leaves of a plant. So they are normally hatched on leaves, so that when they are hatched, they are close to their source of food. So these are the eggs. These are the eggs. Maybe you have seen one before, but you didn't know they were eggs of a butterfly. So after some time, with the right conditions, the egg will hatch into a young butterfly called caterpillar. And then they will come out of the egg. Yes. God is so wonderful. They will also come out of the egg. So the young one of a butterfly is called a caterpillar. So viewers, let's look at coming from the egg, and this is the process they go through, and they become a matured butterfly. See. So coming from the egg, they live as a caterpillar, and then they attach themselves to a plant, and then gradually they turn into a butterfly with wings. So when you catch a butterfly and you remove the wings, you see that it resembles this caterpillar. So with time, their wings also grow and they become a full-grown butterfly. Good. Now let's get to the cockroach. Cockroach. They also lay eggs, and we have some of these eggs at home. Most of the time we see this is the egg of a cockroach, and I believe you have come across one before. Majority of Ghanaian homes have cockroaches there. We don't invite them, they come themselves. So maybe you have come across something like this. This is the egg of a cockroach. So they are laying, this cockroach is laying the egg like a pest. And it's so surprising, the number of cockroaches that come out from this egg is so surprising. The number of cockroaches that come out of this egg. Let's watch. So after some time, this egg will also hatch. And this small egg that you see here can hatch more than 10 cockroaches. See. See the number of cockroaches that are coming out of this tiny egg you see here. The number of cockroaches that are coming out. Normally, I have seen this egg several times, and when you break it, you just see a liquid substance coming from it. But look at when it's hatched, look at the number of cockroaches that are coming from the eggs. See. See, more than 10. See, this small egg. Look at the number of cockroaches. This small egg. This small egg. Look at the number of cockroaches it's hatched. So cockroaches also lay eggs, and young ones are hatched from the eggs. Young ones are hatched from the eggs. Let's watch the cockroach again. They first lay their egg. They are all around. They are all around. So they will find somewhere safe to lay their egg. This is the egg of the cockroach. This small egg here. Like a pest. Then they will hide it somewhere. And when it gets the right conditions, so if maybe you are cleaning your house and you see 10 of these eggs, if they can hatch more than 10, then that means that these 10 will generate 100 cockroaches in your homes. 100. Because one can hatch more than 10 young cockroaches. So see. See. See them coming out. this small egg hatching more than 10 cockroaches. So anytime you see an egg like this at home, just make sure you destroy it, because if you don't take care, you will become the best cockroach farmer. If you entertain these eggs, you can become the best cockroach farmer. See them. See, and it takes 9 months for these young cockroaches to develop into a matured cockroach. It takes 9 months. So with time, they will grow and they will turn brownish, as we know the color of cockroaches. So the eggs of cockroaches also hatch young ones. So they lay the eggs first, and young ones are hatched from the eggs. Let's look at a mosquito. Mosquito to laying eggs. Look at the size of a mosquito. If a mosquito is disturbing you and then you are able to kill it, look at the size of the mosquito and look at how they lay their eggs. They pack it. They pack them. And as you know, they lay eggs in water. Mosquitoes, they lay eggs in water. So look at just one mosquito laying more than 100 eggs. See how they arrange it. And because they are very tiny, you will not recognize it. See, look at how they even arrange it. They are even facing backwards towards the egg, but look at how they're able to lay and arrange it. See. So these are the eggs in water. So with time, getting the right conditions, they will all hatch into mosquitoes. See. See. And they become nuisance. They start disturbing us. So that is why every stagnant water, they can't lay eggs in running water. No. So make sure that every stagnant water, you do away with them. Because one mosquito can lay more than 100 eggs. You just saw it. They pack it. And then the eggs are hatching. See. And if one mosquito can reproduce 100 mosquitoes, then if you have 10, 1 million. That is why we are always disturbed by mosquitoes. And malaria kills almost 700,000 people every year because they multiply in numbers. They multiply in numbers. So we have to make sure we clean our environment, do away with all stagnant water so that we get rid of them. If you have a clean environment, mosquitoes will not disturb you. Because sometimes a place may be bushy with empty cans, and the mosquitoes will breed their young ones from there. And every time you'll be disturbed by mosquitoes, every time. So let's watch how they lay their eggs and then hatch again. So look at how they lay their eggs. They pack them. They use their legs to put them in place and they pack it. This small insect. These small insects. See how they pack the eggs. See how they pack the eggs. See. And all these eggs will hatch into young mosquitoes. That is why we are, as I said, we are killed by mosquitoes every time. Because just one mosquito, look at the number of eggs the mosquito is laying. Look at the number of eggs. One mosquito can lay more than 100. And then after that, inside the water, it will hatch. It will hatch. And then within some few days, they will grow into adult mosquitoes. and they will start disturbing us. They will start disturbing us. So let's do away with them. We have seen how insects reproduce, means producing young ones from eggs. That is what I want you to get. When you hear hatching, it means producing young ones from eggs. And animals like insects and amphibians produce their young ones through hatching. So amphibians do not give birth. Insects do not give birth. They all hatch their young ones through eggs. Good. Now let's test ourselves on this lesson. Producing young ones from eggs is called, you have given birth, you have laying, we have hatching. Producing young ones from eggs. Good. It's hatching. Good. Which of the following insects lay the egg shown below? Is it the cockroach? Is it the butterfly? Is it the mosquito? This egg is laid by which insect? Good. It's the cockroach. Good. And about more than 10 young cockroaches come from that egg. Which of the following animals hatch their young ones from eggs? Which of the following animals hatch their young ones from eggs? So we have cat, we have frog, we have cow. I see you laughing. Yes, the answer is frog. Yes. A newborn frog is called, we have toad, we have tadpole, we have pop. Good. Tadpole. Eggs coming out of a frog is called, eggs coming out of a frog is called, we have giving birth, we have laying, we have hatching. Eggs coming out of a frog. Good. Laying. Yes. The egg coming out of a frog or any other animal, we call it laying. Very good. Kate, you have all done well. Now let's take this assignment and try our hands on. 1. Explain hatching in reproduction. Explain hatching in reproduction. 2. State 3 examples of animals that reproduce young ones through hatching from eggs. State 3 examples of animals that reproduce young ones through hatching from eggs. And then 3. Explain why frogs lay eggs in water. Explain why frogs lay eggs in water. I'll give you some few minutes to put this homework down. I believe you were able to write the assignments down in your jotters. Good. We started the reproduction lessons in our 2 previous lessons, and today ends the lesson in reproduction. I believe you have learned how various animals or different kinds of animals reproduce their young ones, and I believe you have learned something in that lessons. Until I come your way again with another interesting science lesson, this is your teacher Ernest Ato Benzel. Bye bye.